I'm Suzanne Jacob. I'm the Chief Marketing Officer at DHR Global, and we're very excited to welcome you today to our CEO Perspective series, where we interview a C-suite leader on topics affecting companies across geographies and industries. Philippe Thierot, a managing partner leading DHR services in Korea. Philippe and his team have partnered with leaders on senior level search assignments for foreign and APAC companies across industrial, life science, healthcare, consumer, retail, and technology sectors. In his almost 10 years with DHR and many more as a leader in the executive search industry, Philippe has met with many impactful leaders. And when we started planning for this CEO Perspective event, the executive you'll meet tonight was top of Philippe's list for leaders who are driving impact through business transformation. Today, we're very pleased to welcome Erwan Vilfeu, President of the Korea companies for Zuellig Pharma. Zuellig Pharma is one of the largest healthcare services groups in Asia with a purpose to make healthcare more accessible. They provide world-class distribution, digital, and commercial services to support the growing healthcare needs in the APAC region. From its founding almost 100 years ago, Zuellig Pharma has grown to become a $13 billion US business covering 13 markets with over 12,000 employees. Their people serve over 350,000 medical facilities and work with over 500 clients, including the top 20 pharmaceutical companies in the world. In today's ever-changing business world, transformation is more than just a buzzword, it's a necessity. And so tonight in our session with Erwan, we'll explore the role of leadership in an organizational transformation. I'll be back a little bit later to moderate our question and answer session with the audience. So during our conversation with Erwan, you can submit your questions via the chat or the question function at the bottom of the screen, and we'll do our best to answer them live. Philippe, I'll let you take it away.
Thank you, Suzanne. And thank you all for joining us and to learn more about Erwan, his professional journey, the transformation he has impacted, and the world-class brand he has worked with. Erwan is has a global executive experience across consumer aeronautics and pharma space. So he's quite diversified in terms of experiences. He has a track record also across geographies, Europe, Africa, and lately Asia. He brings his 25 years of experience successfully transforming complex multidisciplinary organization within the industry where we worked for, like consumer goods, healthcare, and pharma. And he brings his passion and his vision to this approach, and I think he will share that with us. 3.5 years ago, Erwan made a big decision to leave Nestlé after 21 years with Nestlé, which was a big decision to make, but he was guided by this passion and willingness to transform businesses. And it saw in Zuellig a good opportunity to do that, and he will explain to us what he has done. So we are very excited to speak to you, Erwan, about business transformation, and thank you for sharing your unique approach and your passion. So welcome, Erwan, and thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Philippe, and hi, everybody, and thank you for being here tonight. I hope we make the session as interesting as possible, so please ask all your questions. We'll make sure you answer.
Thank you, Erwan. I know you well. We have known each other for many years now, but for people attending that session, could you share a little bit about your journey from Nestlé to Zuellig?
So that's a question that is coming quite often when I meet people. They ask me about how do you move from Nestlé to Zuellig Pharma? How do you move from FMCG consumer goods to pharmaceutical products? And I don't think it was a particularly difficult transition. I think it was quite an exciting one. It was not my first transition. I'm passionately curious and I do things with passion. I love to discover and learn about new things. You mentioned I've been in different places. I think I counted, I relocated 22 times. I lived across 5 continents, experienced different cultures and realities. And that from very early ages. And I think once you get the virus, you continue to do that. And the passion for learning drove me to study aeronautical engineering. That was my field. I got my first job with Airbus. And then I wanted to be a commercial pilot. I loved flying, maybe because I spent a lot of time in planes. Maybe because every little boy wants to be a pilot, and I wanted to be a pilot. So I went on with joining the Air France flying school and passed my commercial pilot license. What happened is after September 11, all the airlines, all the pilots were grounded. So I decided to try something else. I didn't want to wait. And I embarked on an exciting mission for Nestle. And I thought it would last 6 months. And it turned out to be 21 amazing experience. And I never had any dull day in Nestle. I think Nestle has also this very nice ways to take you around different types of jobs and geographies. So I worked between, you mentioned Europe, US, Africa, Korea for 6 years ago. I covered position in sales, marketing, business management. I was in charge of coffee, baby nutrition, confectionery. I went on learning six years ago. I passed an MBA with IMD because I felt I needed to upgrade my business skills. And when I joined Korea, I think I truly became passionate about the power of digital innovation, discovering a very advanced world with consumers very connected. And then I decided to pass master level classes with Columbia University in New York on AI and machine learning because I truly wanted to understand about a field that was revolutionizing the business. It was not easy. I had to take back my mathematics classes. So with all that in hand, 4 years ago, I decided to jump out of the comfort zone, out of the nest, as we say, and jumped out of Nestle. It was definitely not an easy decision, but I think I thought it was the right moment to do it after 21 years. And I thought there was a fantastic challenge with Zuellig Pharma that was really accelerating in digital. So to answer your question, I think it was not necessarily a challenging or difficult change. I think it's been a very exciting one. You know, I think moving from Nestle to Zuellig is not necessarily more challenging than moving from Europe to Africa or from Africa to Asia or engineering to sales to marketing. I think every transition, that's the way I conceive it, is like a gift and can be tremendously exciting and successful as long as you approach it with humility. I think it's important, with a curious open mind and diligently trying to learn about your environment, the customers, the clients, and find out how you can engage with your organization to add value.
Thank you, Erwan. So during your career, you have been highly focused on transformation. I think it's something that you like to do and to experience. What do you see as the most important question for a leader to ask when approaching a business transformation of any kind? How does it start?
So I think it never starts by thinking I would need to transform the business. I don't think it's the right way to approach it. I never tried like that. I think it's a good recipe for failure if you just start thinking you need to organize. I think you use the same kind of recipe I described before for successful transition. You just need to be very curious and understand the environment where you work, your customers, your clients, your employees. And then you engage your teams to find disruptive and the most disruptive ways to try to solve these problems and add value. So that's for me really the starting point, is really being curious about the environment where you work, challenging the status quo. And from here, you can start to find solutions and articulate a vision and a roadmap for transformation. If I give you some examples, we can talk about Nestle Korea. I took over a very complicated situation. It was an unprofitable business that had been collapsing year after year consistently for 15 years. And the company was really struggling to find a way out of this negative cycle. And I didn't start thinking on my arrival, we need to transform the business. I knew it would not be easy. I was coming from Africa. It was my first CEO role. It was a different culture, different consumers, different market dynamics. So I really started in a very humble way to try to spend as much time as I could with consumers, shoppers, retailers, together with the teams, thinking, asking hundreds of questions, trying to find how did we end up failing in a critical market? How can we succeed? And gradually we understood something very important, a very important insight. After 15 years fighting and losing shares, we find out Nestlé had become more of a B2B company. The strategy, the innovation, the pricing, the promotional strategy, they were all dictated by our distributors, reacting with our competitors. But I think we were fighting on short-term targets. There was no clear vision. We also rated as a very bad place to work, and we had great difficulties to attract and retain talents. And so what we understood is that if you wanted to succeed in this super competitive environment that was Korea, the only way for us to win was to transform the company and becoming back a B2C company, be more consumer-centric, understand their needs, be more obsessed by innovations. And I'm talking about innovation in terms of products, services, route to markets, and really focusing on providing differentiated and premium brands and services. Really premium brands, you cannot compete in Korea with average brands. You need to stand out of the markets and bring a lot of value to the consumers. So when we took all this together, then we set a vision and a roadmap. And what we did is we formed a joint venture with a local partner, Lotte, and we parked all the more traditional slow-moving brands with this partner. And that allowed us to focus the rest of the organization on managing and launching fast-moving super premium brands like Nespresso, Nescafé Dolce Gusto, so all the capsules coffee, premium infant formulas like Illuma, premium confectionery. And I think innovation become really the obsession of the organization. We obviously used a lot of digitalization because in Korea there's a great opportunity to use that. So we use data and artificial intelligence to connect more efficiently to consumers. We reinvented the way we're marketing our products. We focused on digital marketing much more than in the past. We created a new concept. We launched a subscription program. So we really started to rethink the way we connect to consumers on a daily basis and brought new brands and new ways to interact with them and sell and market our products. So again, we didn't start thinking the business is failing, we need to make a transformation. I think transformation happened naturally. Once we looked at all the issues we had, we came up with a lot of things that we articulated in the vision and the roadmap. And that was a natural way to get into transformation. I think every successful business should focus on creating qualitative, differentiated products and services that answer durably consumer needs. So that's why the most important and critical things that you learn in marketing, which is true for every business, is that you need to truly, genuinely get your organization to understand your consumers. I constantly tell my teams in Nestlé, in Zuellig, spend the time with your customers, spend your time, go outside, this is the real world. Shop with your consumers, have breakfast with them, find where they spend their times, see what they like and dislike. And that's something I probably learned a lot with my bosses in Africa, where we're spending 60% of the time in the open markets, going to supermarkets, meeting the people. And it sounds obvious, but that's something that most people forget. I think we lose the contact with the real world, and that's really where you get ideas, that's really where you learn. And when I say the whole organization needs to be outside, it's not only about the marketing team or the market research team, it's the whole organization. And if I have time to do it as a CEO, I think everybody has time to do it. They can do it. I always try to spend 20% of my time on the field with customers, clients, employees. I'm sure we need to be successful to make sure the whole organization connects with the world outside. The other key word probably in what I was saying is about, and for successful transformation also is about really developing some differentiated and disruptive solutions. We hear about this VUCA word, the environment, which is perfectly changing with uncertain futures, etc. So corporations, they have to adapt to the digitalization of the society, the new important issues coming up. And consumer trends are changing faster than before. If you have kids, you see how quickly they change one toy to another one game to another one, the way they consume music. If you live in Asia, I think it's quite fascinating how trends are changing fast, and you don't have to fall in the trap of trying to get beyond every trend. So the strategy needs to be redrawn and the business models recalibrated in quite disruptive ways. You need to really look ahead in the future to develop something that is going to work and create gaps with competition. And I think that's what I love. I always challenge the team to try to find something better. If somebody did it before, or if consumers or competitors are doing it, it's not good enough. You have to find better ideas or different ways to do it. And I find it quite exciting because that's how you truly innovate and bring great new things to the consumers. I'm sure you know the quote from Wayne Gretzky. He was a former hockey player, and I love his quote. He used to say, "I always skate where the puck is going to be, not where it has been." And I think that's the way you should conceive transformation. Don't transform your organization to be like the others, transform to be ahead of the other competitors.
Thank you, Erwan. That's very interesting. During one of our prep calls, you told us that transformation is not an end, it's a mean. What do you see as the role of a business leader when you prepare for transformation, the digital transformation? So
I'm quite critical when we talk about digital transformation. I think it became a buzzword. People talk about IoT, machine learning, AI. I think most people have a very vague idea about what it means or how to use it. You hear people mixing cryptocurrencies and blockchains. And a lot of people seem to be pushing for digital transformation without the clear directions. They seem sometimes only to do it because it looks nice on their LinkedIn or it's important to do it. What I mean by digitalization is a mean, not an end, is that digitalization is not your transformation plan. So it's dangerous when you talk about digital transformation. I think digitalization supports your transformation plan. It's a fantastic opportunity to innovate. It's a way to solve in a more disruptive way about your customers' issue. It can allow you to make your organization more efficient and serve better your end customers. It can allow you to bring new services, your route to market, cut costs. So multiple ways to do it. But you need to understand first what problem you're trying to solve. And only then you'll find out if a data or digital solution can be the answer. You don't want you to just launch yourself in digital transformation because it's great to have a website, to communicate online, etc. Maybe sometimes it's not the solution. We did a lot of work. I think you mentioned at the beginning that what attracted me in Zuellig was the digital acceleration that was happening in pharma. And I think it's interesting to see how pharma that stayed a bit more traditional really accelerated and embracing the power of digital to move faster. Zuellig Pharma is a healthcare service company. We worked with lots of manufacturers. We're in a very strategic part of the healthcare ecosystem because we work with all the healthcare professionals. We work with the pharmaceutical manufacturers. We serve 30,000 pharmacies, so we have a lot of data, a lot of information, and we totally digitalized the way we work with all the players in the healthcare ecosystems. We changed the way we work with the pharmacies. We have 30,000 pharmacies and clinics that we have connected with now with a B2B platform that has now 250,000 transactions every day in Korea. And again, we didn't start the journey by saying we need to digitalize our relationship with doctors and pharmacies. We started with an important insight. We've seen there was 20,000 to 30,000 available drugs in Korea. And that's more than what pharmacies can handle in terms of inventory. And there's no way pharmacies can be expert about any brands. But still, when a patient comes, the pharmacy should be able to deliver the drug in a limited amount of time. And they should also have access to all possible information to inform the patients. So we created this B2B platform where product information is organized in a very actionable way for the pharmacist. You can also use the platform to place your orders, to pay the trucks, to manage the returns. And then we built from there a whole platform ecosystems of services. We connected all the trucks we have so that we can follow our trucks, and that's also allowing the pharmacies to visualize better when the drugs will arrive. It also helped us to optimize the routing of our trucks and be more sustainable. And then we added an innovation that it's a blockchain-based track and trace service that allow all the healthcare professionals to scan every drug and check if the product is authentic, so not counterfeited, but also the safety, which is something which is being more and more important, specifically with all the biological drugs that have some very strict temperatures recommendations. So with this tool, you just scan with your phone and you can understand if there's been some temperature excursion, if the product is still safe for consumption. Which also allowed us to capture a lot of data, and all process being digitalized and all the data being captured, we've been able to provide to our clients scorecards, allowing them to visualize drug movement, but also use predictive models to optimize the stock movement. So things came one after the other, and each time digitalization was a way to answer one of the needs of our clients. And gradually build a very powerful ecosystems. Now, you don't need to go in every direction. We obviously made a lot of choices of things, decided we're not going to get there. We're going to focus in something which has to make sense. Interestingly, having digitalized all the relationship with the pharmacies, that also allowed us to restructure the organization. We had a lot of issues with an expensive sales team that had been a source of continuous union conflicts. And what we did is we right-sized or downsized the organizations, or this part of the organization, removing that sales team. And that allowed us to hire new talents. We hired a lot of new talents, focusing resources in more valuable parts of the business and resources that are there to really help us to grow faster. So it's been quite painful, quite difficult transformation. But now Zuellig is more profitable. Although we lost money for 15 years, we're profitable. We don't have any more union issues, and the team is really truly excited about the vision. There's a lot of projects, things going on. We also perceived as one of the most innovative healthcare service company in the market by our clients. So it's a great satisfaction to see where we stand now, and how we've been able to drive digital innovation in healthcare that was more traditional in the past. I think it's just another point which I think is interesting when we put together the consumer words and pharmaceutical words or healthcare words. What I've seen is that in FMCG with Nestle, the digital pressure came from outside. I think companies like Nestle, Procter, Unilever were cruising with huge brands, and suddenly we find that consumers were very rapidly changing the way they're searching for product information online, not relying on TVs, using multiple digital platforms to communicate, and they changed their behavior. They started to buy on multiple channels. So it forced the industry to react fast and change the way you were doing marketing and sales. Healthcare was a bit more traditional. There was more reluctance from the patient, from the consumers, to use digital means. Regulation was also very constrainful, but technology was there with IoT, with devices, with data and AI. There was a lot of available technology which was ready, standing there just for innovation. And thankfully, the COVID crisis really helped to accelerate and change the ways all players in the ecosystem started to use digital.
Yes, that's very interesting. Thank you. Talking about COVID, I think the transition to the next question. COVID caused digital transformation to accelerate across industries, and many companies are just trying to catch up with the changes that we see. how was Zuellig prepared for this acceleration, and how has the business continued to evolve since it started?
I knew we would talk about COVID at some point. And I'm glad we didn't start by COVID. So I have to thank you for that, because it's a bit boring now. You start all conversation with COVID. No, but that's an interesting question. I'm sure you've seen
we have anticipated many of the moves that before COVID happened. I think that's an interesting point.
No, you're right, and I think you've seen the joke. I was saying, who was the accelerator of the digital transformation in your company? Was it the CEO, the CIO, or COVID-19? And COVID-19 was the one cycled. It definitely changed a lot of things in healthcare. In healthcare, obviously, we can see and measure how, as I was saying, the doctors are much more open to use digital means to talk with patients. Patients are also more and more using digital tools. Actually, I mean, the first thing you do when you have a health issue, you don't turn to your doctor, you turn to Google. I think you have 7 million searches on Google every minute about health. So and people start not to trust so much the doctors. People come to the doctors for a second opinion. They already have their opinion, which is coming from what they search online. Which is things we're discussing. We know doctors are struggling because they have patients coming. They already search so much about their problems, and they know what drug they need to have. They know what many other cases. So it's putting doctors in a difficult position, and the trust between the patients and the doctors is also evolving. I think in what I was reading in the 1950s, 74% of Americans said they were trusting the doctors. It dropped to 13% last year. I don't have data for all the countries, and it's true for all the heavy things. If you go and see the doctor and it tells you you have a bad condition, you need to go under any like liver surgery, the first thing you do, you go and see another doctor and the third doctor, and because you want to compare, you don't fully trust what the doctor is telling you. So it's really reshuffling this digital acceleration is really reshuffling the ways doctors, patients, and manufacturers are dealing with healthcare. There's a rebalance of powers, and everybody's using the digital tools in a different way. Now, coming to Zuellig, I wouldn't say it created a different reality, or we hear a lot about the new reality, and I just think what COVID did is just accelerated time, but nothing really came as a surprise. I think we talked before about looking always in the future, looking about what's happening. It's difficult to predict the future. You don't know what's going to happen in 50 years, but there are things you can anticipate. And I think everything that is coming with COVID, nothing is really coming as a surprise. You could anticipate that consumers would increasingly more shop online. They're watching less and less TVs, and then always look at different platforms that they are more and more connected. You could guess that at some point, patients would evolve to use more digital apps. There were actually more than 3,000 healthcare apps on the app stores or Google Store even before the COVID. So you could predict that. We also had some of these digital therapeutics. Digital therapeutics are some of these apps that have been able to prove through some kind of clinical trials that they have an efficient impact on people's health to the point that they get recognized by FDA, reimbursed by the insurances, and prescribed by the doctors. So this already started before COVID. We have more of these digital therapeutics apps now recognized. So what I mean is that this trend already started before. It just accelerated. And if you did your job correctly as a CEO, understanding is really truly your consumers' problems, all that shouldn't happen as a surprise. If you did your job on time, if you started your transformation on time, then you should be safe with COVID. I think it's been also a tremendous positive acceleration for us, because when you anticipate, when you innovate ahead of time, you need to support cost before a wide majority of consumers or users will adapt to your solutions. And the great thing with COVID is that the doctors, patients started to be more inclined to use digital solutions. So everything we had developed started to be used in a more massive way by HCPs. We had solutions like, we also had the metaverse, which was developed to get doctors to interact together. We could put that in light ahead of competition and start to use it. We had social platforms to get doctors to talk and discuss together. They started to use it ahead of time. And even about the organization, because your organization is very much into people. Interestingly, we restructured the office 6 months before the COVID crisis. We went on breaking walls, creating hot desk, introducing flexible working time. We provided digital tools to get people to be able to work from home. We were not preparing ourselves for COVID. We were trying to change the culture. We're trying to change a very hierarchical top-down culture where managers were separated from the rest of the organization. Everything was very siloed. We tried to attract new types of talents. We tried to get people who were willing to work differently and increase their efficiency. We wanted to get people to be more outside of customers. We wanted to have people to be valued by their performance, not by the time they spend in the office. So we prepared all this transformation. And actually, interestingly, when COVID started, people were already, half of them, working from home. So I hear some people ask me, so are you going to get back to full work in the office? No, we changed before, and maybe we asked people to stay a bit more at home when we had some crisis, but it's not going to change, and we didn't do that in reactions to COVID. We did that because we looked into the future and what and how we needed to transform our organization to be more efficient.
Very good, very good. So what do you think are the most common pitfalls that you can face when you transform your business, and how can a leader avoid that?
I think you have many, because definitely it's difficult to make a transformation. We said the first thing is to talk to your consumers. So the first one is having the wrong insights. So not really taking time to truly understand the problems you're trying to solve, or not articulating them in the right way. I use a lot the deep dive methodology. For those who don't know it, you can search it. It's, but really willing to go deeply, and then coming back and testing the solutions. And don't do this, don't lose the contact with your consumers. It's not only at the beginning. You need to constantly maintain this contact with consumers, because reality is changing all the time. So you don't want to have some of these organizations who are so obsessed by their solution, the hand solutions they're trying to develop, but if we don't see that consumers evolve and moved on the other side. So the first one is really keep the contact with your consumers. Agility, I think, is important, because reality is changing fast. It's not static. I hate PowerPoints. I try to ask my teams to stop using PowerPoints. I don't think it's an efficient tool to get dialogues and communications. I usually ask people to use different tools and make sure that there's open two-ways communication. But when I'm talking about agility and the way you define and discuss about the business models, I don't want to use PowerPoints. I often like to use the business model canvas, which is used by a lot of startups, which is a tool that is really allowing to adjust easily the business model in different directions. So you have to stay agile, because you may have a clear roadmap and directions, but you want to be able to adjust it along the way, because probably if it's a major and big transformation projects, you'll have to adjust what you do. Planning then is important. I think you need a solid change management plan. It's a complicated task to transform the organizations. Don't underestimate it. You need detailed planning. You need to understand which stakeholders would be included at what moment in the transformation, and how to plan your communication with internal, with external stakeholders. And in your planning, also plan for everything that can go wrong. So you need a strong risk and mitigation assessment plan. Leadership, I think it's important. If you want to drive the transformation, I think it needs to come from the CEO. Or at least he needs to be involved and drive it and communicate it constantly about it. You must make sure the whole organization knows where we're going and feel very engaged about the transformation. And talking about resources, you need to make sure you identify all the critical positions that are going to drive the transformation. I think I often say this position, they should report to the CEO, or they should be not too far from the CEO, so that you can keep the control and understand how they're going to support this transformation and cascade it down in the organization. It requires also to have the right talents. You may have them inside, you may need to hire them outside, because you also sometimes need to build new capabilities in your organization. So go for the best one outside, steal them to your competitors, bring them in your organization. Use the HR for that if you want. But it's important to get the right resources, and it sets strong messages for the organization if you invest and put high-level talents in your organization. I think another important one is the engagement across the organization. People are truly catalysts of a successful transformation, so you need to get your organization to be truly excited about the transformation. You need to put people first. You need to energize them. You know, you don't sell your transformation project to your team the same way you sell it to the board. You're not going to motivate your team with the financials. You need to connect them with a sense of purpose. We did actually a very interesting things in Zuellig that I can share, because we involved in these transformation projects a lot of young employees that we sent on the field, and they really participated and started to design the roadmap and the solutions. And interestingly, once we decided what would be our roadmap and all the plans, and we had project managers, these teams of young employees that probably in a traditional Korean organization would not be even allowed to speak up, they stayed as advisors. So the project managers every 3 months have been reporting to these advisor groups about the progress of the projects, which allowed to get everybody to stay truly engaged in the projects. And I would say also be very mindful, and that's thing of learning. You learn the hard way. You need to find pessimistic people, the toxic people. They often sit not far from you in the organization, because they are also sometimes very uncomfortable about the change. You know, they have a nice position and everything is cruising and it's fine. So we don't see why they would take any risk to change that. So they feel very uncomfortable, and you have to be careful, because these are the people that you need to move out very quickly if you feel they play not with but against you. They are the people who tell you it's impossible, you cannot do that, we tried it before. I painted on each time I made my organization, I painted on the board room this quote from Nelson Mandela, where he says, "It always seems impossible until it's done." And I think you need to get the organization to think that. Then quickly, I'd say don't go for average solutions, go for, we said, to talk about differentiated solution, and make sure you keep this goal to get for differentiated solutions along the way. Often you see organizations that start with fantastic projects and you end up with something which is average. That's too bad. You need the support from the board. If you're the CEO, you don't want the board to drop you. Actually, when the board asked me on the last transformation we meet, they asked me the list of risks. And I said, the biggest risk is for me to lose my job. So I need your support. We need to be aligned, because if it fails, and probably the last one I'd like to mention is managing your energy and the team's energy. Change is exhausting, it's stressful, it's the way you manage your people, it's creating anxiety, and during the transformation after, What I did specifically in the last transformation in Zuellig, because there were a lot of tensions with unions and a lot of risks, we use individual coaches. We got for 6 months individual coaches that were behind all the critical people driving the change to make sure they would be able to discuss and have somebody to help them to manage their energy during the transformation. I think that's a very important part.
Thank you, Erwan. From your perspective, what does a successful transformation look like?
So it's to me, I mean, we know that most of the transformation are failing. I think I was reading from Harvard research that 22% of companies successfully manage transformation. We talked about how the stress he was putting on people. And I think most employees, if you ask them, if you tell them we're going to do a business transformation, they would, most of them associate that with downsizing, losing their jobs, and where do they have to hide. And people are naturally resisting to change, specifically when it's imposed to them. So I think one issue is that, and I think I was seeing a comment from somebody that's saying that transformation doesn't have a start and the end, and I totally agree with that. I think that we end up having a transformation project because leaders wait too much to act. So it means that the result is that everything is happening in crisis mode. You find yourself in front of a wall, and you have to engage a large transformation projects. If you do it like that, it's exhausting and stressful. Given the urgency, most transformation focused on short-term results, and it doesn't guarantee a success of the future. So I fully agree with the comments I've just in passing, that transformation should be continuous, step by step, allowing the business to stay always along the ahead of consumers, ahead of customers' needs, to build a stronger vision. You need to put people first. You need to have a culture of innovation, and make sure that there's continuous transformation of the organization, and avoid doing transformation projects.
So it means that your job is not completed yet.
Never, it's never completed, because you constantly find new things. So I think what you have to do is trying to find consistency and make sure that all the new changes you bring in your organization are consistent with your vision and what you're trying to build. It's complicated also in places like most of these Asian countries where things are accelerating in different directions, because you end up falling in a trap to try to go behind all the trends and all the tendencies, and that's not good, because that can be extremely exhausting for the people.
Thank you, Erwan. I think we have a few questions from the audience. Gabi, are you with us?
Actually, I'm here, Suzanne, I'm back. This has been a really great conversation, as shown by some of the questions that came in. I know Nicholas had a question about, not a start and end, but a continuum, and I think you answered that already, Erwan. Julian had a question about South Korea is ranked the most innovative country in the world by the EU. And for foreign companies, it seems to be a great country to find new ways of doing things that can then be implemented globally. What are your views on the spread of innovation and innovative culture within the whole company from one continent to another?
Thanks, Julian. I think it's a difficult question to answer, because Korea on one way is very innovative. On the other side, you see a lot of blocks, regulation, things going against innovation. But I think something that helps for innovation in Korea is that Korea is Seoul. I mean, you have 20 million people in one city. Everything is super connected. You get great infrastructures. You get fast delivery systems. There's a lot of security. People can drop any delivery in front of your house. Nobody's going to steal it. And you got the 5G. Consumers are all connected at all ages. They shop online. I think the latest number I've seen, 35 to 30% of people are now shopping online. Actually, I didn't put, since I left Nestle, I didn't go in any supermarkets. I'm literally doing shopping online. So I think it's a fantastic place to try things, to test things, and then to replicate that in other places. It's definitely a difficult place to do it because when you try something, you'll be copied very fast. Competition is very powerful, very moving super fast. The trends are changing fast, so it's definitely a very difficult market to succeed. But it's a great place to test new tendencies, new models, new route to markets, and then export that elsewhere.
Right. Well, I do want to be mindful of time. I think we had promised to keep this to around 45 minutes, and we're just bumping up against that. But I wanted to end with one more question, Erwan, just to have a chance to wrap up. So I know we've been talking a lot about transformation tonight. What's your best non-transformation related leadership advice to leave everybody with a little bit of inspiration and get them innovating?
You mean a company that transformed itself in a great way?
Or what's some of your advice that you would have to others?
I mean, my advice is always the same. Don't think about transformation. Just go on the field, connect with your customers, find whatever they need, and then everything will flow naturally because you'll find great ways to add value to your organizations, to your customers, consumers, and then you need to facilitate the innovative process and get your organization to be fully engaged behind that. It's be passionate about your consumers.
Great. Well, thank you, Erwan, and thank you, Philippe, for moderating today's conversation. I think this was really, really engaging, and I have a whole bunch of notes of ideas and inspiration that you've given me, Erwan. So thank you for your time and energy. Thank you to everyone who's joined us.
Thanks, everybody, for your time. It was a pleasure.
Thank you, Erwan.
Thank
Thank you, everybody, for attending the session.